Getting on the air with your first CW QSO isn't as hard as it sounds. Chris Herter, KF7WX. In this video, we'll learn the anatomy of a CW QSO. CW QSOs are carried out in a very specific format that everybody uses. Once you learn the rules, you'll be able to jump into pretty much any CW conversation. In fact, the way we start CW QSOs is so consistent, you'll be able to carry on a standard conversation at much higher speeds because you'll know what to expect. We learn by example, so let's look at a real QSO. Before calling CQ yourself, first listen. You'd be surprised how often you hear another operator already calling on the band. Answering a CQ call has several advantages. You can choose a station sending at a speed you're comfortable with, and you can listen a few times to make sure you get their call sign right. So this station is using the standard CQ format, which is calling CQ 3 times, identifying yourself, DE, this is, and then stating your call sign twice, ending with K. We use K to end a statement that is directed at no one in particular. In this case, you're calling CQ, so you're hoping anybody would come back to you. It's different than the particle KN, which we use to end exchanges with a specific station. Okay, so we had someone come back to us right away, and a couple things with that station that are worth pointing out. The first is they are not ending with K. Now they're ending with KN because we're talking one-on-one, so they're talking to a specific station. And the other thing is that you've noticed they are sending slower than I was. And from the standpoint of just being a courteous operator, I would not want to send faster than that station. Ideally, you want to match their speed. So, some CW vocabulary that was introduced in this first exchange: RST, readability, signal strength. This is your signal report. Readability, kind of a subjective term. Are you able to understand the operator to scale from 1 to 5? S is signal strength. Read that right off of your S meter. T is tone. And this, when we were using vacuum tube rigs and homebrew rigs, the way that we designed some of our systems would cause the tone to come out weird, buzzing and howling and things. The tone was a way for other operators to tell you that, okay, you have some buzzing on your signal. With new transistorized rigs, you just don't have that stuff anymore, but it kind of hangs on. It's a 9-point scale. Everybody just uses a 9 on that. You will never hear an RST that ends in anything but a 9. So the signal report given was a 599, which is the best that you can possibly get. I will add that this operator was spelling out the all the numbers 599. Many operators use a cut letter for the number 9, and they'll substitute N. So they'll say 599 5NN, which means the same thing. So we also introduced the CW word for thanks. One of the words, there are actually a couple of them. TNX is something that was used much more frequently decades ago. We've moved away largely to using TU for thank you. It's shorter. But in one location, TNX hangs on, and it's just in this location. So thanks for call. TNX for call. And you'll also notice that we substituted FER for 4. So the CW spelling for FOR is FER, again, because it's faster. Thanks for call. So QTH. This operator used Seattle as the QTH. It did not say Washington State or USA. And by convention, if you live in a larger city that's more well known, like Washington, Paris, Tokyo, most operators don't add the state or the province or the country on those larger cities. It's again for speed and efficiency. If you're in a smaller community, maybe not as well known, or you just want to be complete, you could add the state, province, or your country. One last thing is you will notice that we use the word UR, which is our CW word for your. Your RST, you are, instead of saying YOUR. Again, it's a time-saving thing. So the major take-home from this first exchange is the order that we give this information out. It is always the same. RST, QTH, and your name. RST, QTH, name. That order is pretty important. Most operators, 99% of operators, will carry out that exchange just in that specific order. And it's important because if we're all doing it consistently, you know what to expect. If there happens to be signal fading or some other propagation issue, you know what to expect because that's the way we talk. That is the grammar. One other thing I'll point out, though, is when we're giving the name, oftentimes operators are shortening name to OP, operator. So instead of saying their name, they'll use OP. Op is Chris. Okay, so just as a review, this first level of exchange includes, in this order, RST, signal report, QTH, and name, in that order. 99% of stations send it just like that because if something happens that changes propagation and there's fading, you know what to expect next, just like we all do with this. Signal report followed by QTH followed by name, in that order. So a couple of other things that have to do with this particular exchange. This operator, realizing that Portland is a large city, decided to send that just by itself. But in this case, it leads to confusion because there are two Portlands in the United States. So now we're Maine or Oregon. We're not sure, but that's something that will have to be clarified a little bit later on. Okay, so I am done sending the first level exchange information. We'll move on to the second level, which is weather, rig, and your antenna, in that order. Weather, WX, rig, and antenna, ANT. And that order is very important. So I'll move in and begin the second exchange. Now, I ended with BT, which we will often use as a period in conversations. I had not intended to put that in there, but you'll hear that once in a while at the end of a thought within an exchange. BT. And so while we're waiting for the other station to get back to us, a couple of new words we introduced with that exchange. The first is our shortcut for weather, WX, weather. We're also using ANT for our antenna system, and then RIG for rig. All right, so the order of this is important. Weather, rig, antenna. It's always the same. Just like in our first exchange, the second exchange is grammar dependent. Weather, rig, and antenna, in that order, just as I sent that to you. And so we're going to wait for our other station to answer us. And so we've completed information exchange from the second level now, which is weather, rig, and antenna. So we've reached a point where most people that are just getting started in CW, that's it. We don't have to go any farther. We've given the exchanges and the information, and it's perfectly acceptable at this point to say 73s and then part ways. Certainly you can continue and discuss whatever you'd like afterwards as well. But I would encourage you that when you're beginning this, just getting used to it, just keep it to these exchanges and then gently 73s. So I'm going to say au revoir to the station, and we'll do our kind of ending dance here with a couple of important notes on how we need to properly grammatically correctly end a CW exchange. So I will go ahead and answer the station now. And so that is my indication to the other station that we are done. I've introduced a couple of new CW words to make that go smoothly. TU, now we're using the more common form of thank you, TU. For, and again, we've shortened that to FER. And I added something before the final few words, and that is FB. FB can mean probably a lot of things, but in amateur radio, it is fine business, and that's kind of an abbreviation that can mean great, awesome. So in this particular exchange, thank you for fine business QSO. And then hope to CUL, see you later. 73s. And then I introduced something called a pro sign, and this is an S and K sent very close together so they sound like they're one character. SK means I'm going to be sending no further information. My part of the QSO has concluded. And we end with KN because we're still sending it back to the other station for their final. But they know I'll be listening, but that's all I'm going to be doing. So the exchange is finally done. The QSO comes to a happy ending. A couple of things. This operator chose to use the word great. CW word is actually GRT, but it means great, rather than fine business. They pretty much are the same thing. Let's review the important concepts of this video. The standard basic CW QSO has 4 parts. The first is answering a CQ or calling a CQ. The second is what we call the first level exchange, and this includes 3 pieces of information: RST, the signal report, QTH, and name in that order. Level 2 exchange, which is the third part, is weather, rig, and antenna in that order. And then finally, the fourth part is concluding the QSO. Before ending, I wanted to quickly review the proper technique for calling CQ. So the situation is you have listened to the band. There's nobody there. Okay, you are it. So step number 1, the most important step, is to clear the channel. And we do that by sending QRL question mark is the frequency in use. And if a few seconds go by and no one answers you, then it's yours. But if this comes back to you, QRL means there is a QSO underway, and although you can't hear one of those stations, Kate, they are in the middle of an exchange, and they're letting you know that you need to find another channel. And the way we handle that is to just 2 E's, indicates that you got the message and you're going to depart. Thanks for your interest in CW operations. I'm Chris Herder, Kilo Foxtrot 7 Whiskey X-Ray, KF7WX. There's my email right down there as well. If you have any questions about this video or in CW in general, or you just want to have a QSO sometime, I'm always up for that. Go ahead and shoot me a note. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you on the air. 73s.